The crystal chandeliers cast their elegant glow across the grand ballroom of the Riverside Country Club, where the Martinez family's annual reunion was in full swing. 3 generations of successful professionals filled the opulent space, their conversations a symphony of achievement and ambition. I stood near the bar, nursing a club soda and watching my relatives network with the practiced efficiency of seasoned power brokers. My sister Carmen dominated the center of attention, her designer cocktail dress shimmering as she gestured enthusiastically while describing her latest real estate triumph. As the top commercial property broker in the city, she commanded respect and admiration from our extended family, particularly our parents, who never missed an opportunity to showcase her success. The Meridian Tower deal closed last week for $47 million, Carmen announced to the gathering crowd. It's the largest commercial property transaction in the city's history. The mayor personally called to congratulate me on bringing such a prestigious tenant to downtown. Our father, retired investment banker Eduardo Martinez, beamed with pride as he raised his champagne glass. Carmen has always been the ambitious one in the family. She saw an opportunity in commercial real estate and built an empire. That's what separates successful people from those who settle for ordinary careers. The comment was clearly directed at me, Dr. Isabella Martinez, the family disappointment who had somehow managed to waste her potential on what they consistently referred to as basic healthcare work. I adjusted my simple black dress and continued sipping my drink, accustomed to these not-so-subtle comparisons. My cousin Roberto, a successful pharmaceutical executive, joined the conversation with his own tales of corporate achievement. Speaking of ambition, our European expansion is projected to increase revenues by 30% next year. It's what happens when you think strategically about your career instead of settling for entry-level medical work. The dig wasn't subtle, but then again, family gatherings had never been particularly diplomatic when it came to discussing my career choices. In their minds, I was the Martinez family member who had somehow failed to live up to the family tradition of business success and financial achievement. Our mother, Elena, a former corporate attorney, approached with her characteristic blend of maternal concern and professional disappointment. Isabella, darling, I ran into Dr. Peterson's wife at the tennis club last week. She mentioned that their son just finished his cardiology fellowship and is joining a private practice group. Starting salary is $400,000. Plus partnership potential. That's nice for him, Mom, I replied neutrally, knowing exactly where this conversation was heading. Carmen laughed, the sound carrying just enough condescension to make her point clear. Isabella, you're 33 years old and still working hospital floor shifts. When are you going to acknowledge that bedpan duty is all you'll ever do? Maybe it's time to consider a career change before it's too late. The observation drew nods of agreement from several family members who had gathered to witness this familiar performance. My Aunt Patricia, who owned a successful marketing firm, chimed in with her own perspective on my professional shortcomings. The healthcare industry is changing rapidly, Patricia declared, clearly relishing her role as career counselor. Hospitals are consolidating, nurses are being replaced by technology, and basic patient care is being outsourced to lower-cost providers. Isabella needs to transition to something with growth potential before she gets left behind. My uncle Carlos, a venture capitalist, nodded approvingly. Patricia's absolutely right. The smart money is moving away from traditional healthcare delivery toward healthcare technology and management. Isabella should consider pharmaceutical sales or medical device marketing, something that leverages her healthcare background without trapping her in direct patient care. Through this extended critique of my career trajectory, I maintained my composure, occasionally nodding or offering brief acknowledgments. They had no idea that my position at Metropolitan General Hospital was strategic, designed to keep me connected to frontline patient care while managing my other responsibilities. They didn't know that my modest apartment was actually a penthouse overlooking the city, or that the basic healthcare work they dismissed represented just one aspect of my professional portfolio. Carmen, emboldened by the supportive audience, decided to escalate her performance. The problem with Isabella is that she's comfortable with mediocrity. While the rest of us built businesses and accumulated wealth, she chose the path of least resistance. Hospital nursing is what people do when they can't handle the pressure of real professional responsibility. Carmen has a point, our father added, his investment banking background evident in his analytical approach to family dynamics. Isabella graduated summa cum laude from medical school, but instead of pursuing a lucrative specialty like cardiology or orthopedic surgery, she chose general internal medicine and hospital employment. It's a waste of intellectual capital. My phone buzzed with a text message from my chief financial officer. Q3 revenues exceed projections. System-wide patient satisfaction scores highest in state. Board meeting Tuesday to discuss expansion plans. I glanced at it briefly before returning my attention to the ongoing analysis of my professional failures. The conversation continued in this vein for another 30 minutes, with various family members offering their perspectives on my career limitations and suggesting alternatives that would better align with the Martinez family's tradition of business success. My cousin Maria, a successful tax attorney, recommended healthcare law. My nephew Diego, fresh from his MBA program, suggested healthcare administration or consulting. Throughout this extended counseling session, I maintained my role as the grateful recipient of family wisdom, nodding appropriately and asking occasional questions about their suggestions. The truth was far more complex than they could imagine, but their assumptions about my life and career had become so entrenched that contradicting them seemed pointless. The mood shifted dramatically when the country club's event coordinator approached our group, her expression mixing professionalism with barely contained excitement. "Excuse me, is Dr. Isabella Martinez here? There's someone requesting to speak with her urgently." Before I could respond, a distinguished gentleman in an expensive suit approached, briefcase in hand and expression serious. I recognized him immediately as James Wellington, chairman of the board of Martinez Healthcare Systems, though my family had no reason to know who he was. "Dr. Martinez," Wellington said formally, extending his hand, "I apologize for interrupting your family event, but the Riverside medical acquisition requires your immediate attention. The sellers are demanding a decision tonight, and the $2.3 billion merger cannot proceed without the CEO's approval." The silence that followed was profound. My family stared at Wellington, then at me, their expressions cycling through confusion, disbelief, and dawning comprehension as the implications of his words registered. Carmen was the first to find her voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. "CEO? Isabella, what is he talking about? You work hospital floor shifts." Wellington looked genuinely puzzled by the question. "Ma'am, Dr. Martinez is the founder and CEO of Martinez Healthcare Systems. We operate 17 hospitals across 4 states, employ over 23,000 people, and generate annual revenues exceeding $4.2 billion. I accepted the merger documents from Wellington, reviewing the key terms quickly before signing my approval. "The acquisition looks good, James. Riverside Medical's cardiac program will complement our existing services nicely. Proceed with the closing." As Wellington departed with the signed documents, my family remained frozen in stunned silence. The evening that had begun with criticism of my bedpan duty career had suddenly transformed into something none of them could have anticipated. My father was the first to recover his composure, his investment banking instincts kicking in as he processed the financial magnitude of what he'd just witnessed. "Isabella, did he just say you own a $4 billion hospital system?" "I founded Martinez Healthcare Systems 8 years ago with the acquisition of a struggling community hospital," I explained calmly. "We've grown through strategic acquisitions and organic expansion. Tonight's merger with Riverside Medical will make us the largest healthcare provider in the region." Carmen, whose real estate empire suddenly seemed modest by comparison, stared at me with complete bewilderment. "But Isabella, you work hospital shifts. You live in a small apartment. You drive a 10-year-old car. How can you own billions of dollars worth of hospitals?" "I work 1 shift per week at Metropolitan General because I founded it 12 years ago and want to stay connected to direct patient care. The apartment you think is small is actually a 3,000 square foot penthouse. And the car is reliable transportation that doesn't attract attention at family events." The truth continued to unfold as my relatives processed this complete reversal of everything they thought they knew about my life. The basic healthcare work they'd been encouraging me to abandon was actually the management of one of the largest healthcare systems in the state. The bedpan duty they'd mocked was strategic hands-on experience that informed my decisions as a healthcare executive. My mother, ever practical, was the first to ask the obvious question. "Isabella, if you're worth billions of dollars, why didn't you tell us? Why let us think you were struggling financially?" Mom, I tried to share information about my work many times. Every time I mentioned hospital acquisitions or healthcare system management, you redirected the conversation toward more stable career options. You'd already decided what my professional life looked like before you bothered to learn what it actually involved. Roberto, whose pharmaceutical executive salary suddenly seemed insignificant, shook his head in amazement. Isabella, we've been giving you career advice while you built a healthcare empire? That's about the size of it, Roberto. The evening that followed was surreal, as family members who had spent years critiquing my career choices suddenly found themselves trying to understand how the relative they'd dismissed as underachieving had become one of the most successful healthcare entrepreneurs in the country. Phone calls were made to spouses and children who hadn't attended the reunion, spreading the news that Isabella, the family's supposed failure, was actually wealthier than all of them combined. Carmen, struggling to reconcile her new understanding with years of condescending behavior, approached me near the end of the evening. Isabella, I owe you a massive apology. We all do. I've been completely wrong about everything. Carmen, you weren't wrong about me working in hospitals. I do work in hospitals, I just own them too. You were wrong about assuming that was all I did and wrong about thinking it wasn't valuable work. Over the following weeks, the family dynamic shifted dramatically. The quarterly business discussions that had excluded me suddenly seemed incomplete without my input. The career advice sessions stopped entirely when they learned that my personal net worth exceeded the combined wealth of our entire extended family. But what affected them most was learning about the scope of my work beyond financial success. Martinez Healthcare Systems had improved patient outcomes across 17 hospitals, created thousands of jobs in underserved communities, and pioneered new approaches to healthcare delivery. The bedpan duty they'd mocked was actually direct patient care experience that made me a more effective healthcare leader. The next family reunion had a very different tone. Carmen still discussed her real estate successes, but with new awareness that her sister's achievements operated on an entirely different scale. My parents still shared stories about their children's accomplishments, but now they understood that the daughter they'd been concerned about was actually the most successful entrepreneur in the family's history. My cousin Diego, the recent MBA graduate, asked if I might consider him for a position in healthcare administration. My uncle Carlos, the venture capitalist, inquired about investment opportunities in healthcare technology. Suddenly, the family member they'd been trying to redirect toward better career options was the one they wanted to learn from. Some family relationships are built on assumptions that persist until dramatic events force reassessment. Ours was transformed by the realization that the relative they'd dismissed as lacking ambition had actually built something extraordinary while they were focused on their own definitions of success. As I left that evening, walking past the country club's valet stand toward my 10-year-old car, actually a restored vintage Porsche worth more than most people's homes, I reflected on the strange irony of the situation. My family had spent years telling me to abandon healthcare for more lucrative opportunities, never realizing that I'd found a way to combine my passion for patient care with business success on a scale they'd never imagined. The bedpan duty they'd mocked was real. I still helped with direct patient care during my weekly shifts. But it was also the foundation for understanding healthcare delivery from the ground up. Knowledge that had enabled me to build a healthcare system focused on both clinical excellence and operational efficiency. Some people change careers to achieve success. Others transform their industries while staying true to their original calling. The difference isn't always visible from the outside, especially when family members are too busy giving advice to pay attention to what's actually happening.